Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about Grand Cathay, as we are aware that there's a DLC coming for Cathay, the very first character pack. Now what we do know here is very little. It'll be less expensive than the current packs. Remember that the packs are actually individualized because they're sold as bundles. And also there's a little bit of a hint there because they said it was a fearsome DLC that will come roaring in to claw back the space. So I mean, there's a few things that can be talked about here, and I want to talk about some hopes because, yeah, I mean, Cathay DLC is kind of exciting. For those not aware, I've been having a hell of a time painting up Cathay for the tabletop. I'm really enjoying the models, and the more Cathay stuff that gets released here is more potential models in the future. So let's talk about some hopes for Cathay. So first things first, there's really only 3 legendary characters missing as Lord options for Grand Cathay unless something comes in as a surprise, but we are missing Li Dao the Fire Dragon, Yin-Yin the Sea Dragon, and obviously the Monkey King. It could be done that we could get something like that, but it could also be the case that we might just see legendary heroes introduced and not lords, but alongside some units, some generic lords and some generic heroes. We don't know exactly how they're going to tailor character packs. The way I've kind of hypothesized over the past 2 years calling for the need of character packs is that it could be anything, really. It should be the content deemed appropriate. The problem so far, I'd say, is that Cathay is incredibly full, and it's getting fuller each time because, well, the last DLC introduced 1 character inside of Cathay and 1 right at the border. Cathay is feeling pretty chock-a-block, but the good thing is characters can be introduced outside of Grand Cathay and then just add in some details like, you know, teleport back like Yuan Bo has, and I could see that happening. Now I've had to pick a character, well, there's something that could be done here. They could be with Yin-Yin in Lustria, which could kind of work out quite well. That would be reliving the failed invasion of Lustria, and you've got a character there. The problem is Yuan Bo is there too, so I don't know. This is something that I spoke about with other creators. Like, Okoi seems to think it's Yin-Yin. I'd like to think it's Li Dao, the Fire Dragon, though. And the reason why I think that is because they go like tooth and claw and stuff like that. It's very easy to just go Tigermen, right? Tigermen exist, and we know that they form part of Grand Cathay because we've got the village of the Tigermen. There's also some Cathayan ogres. This is something that we've known about for some time now, whether it be through leaks coming from one source or another, or obviously Warhammer the Old World. Warhammer the Old World has some Cathayan ogre loaders, and we do know that more ogres exist. Hell, there was leering devils in the game files at some point, so we could see essentially what the hypothesized Lords of Shangyang was, but rather legendary lords being legendary heroes. And I feel like that's probably easier for them to do. Ogres, we don't know how long they live. Same thing as Tigermen. They could introduce that. We know voice lines recorded for the Tiger Woman, I think it was. Again, not a lot of context on IMDb. So how it usually works is a legendary lord, a legendary hero, a generic lord, a generic hero, and then we end up with around 5 or 6 units. It does depend on the DLC where appropriate, or when they're using like unit variants, as those are cheaper to produce, as you've already got the base model, you just have to do the animations, and sometimes the animations are reused from other stuff. It's been a common thing, and it's not just for Warhammer, this has been a thing since the historical games too. So the way I could see it is a lord or a hero. This is for the legendaries. I don't think character packs always need to introduce a lord. Like, I don't think we need another Chaos Warrior lord, for example, but we could get some extra things. We're going to stay firmly on Cathay here, though, right? Again, I think it might go a lord or a hero in terms of generics. In some cases, I could see them doing one or the other, or maybe even just doing 2 heroes. Cathay is missing out some hero options, that's for sure. And, well, we know that there's some potential lord options there with monks and stuff, right? And then everything that jumps in, depending on what we got in terms of lords and heroes, we will end up with likely a 5 units. Again, I want to see something in that similar regard. We don't know how much Cathay exists, and this is always going to be a problem. We don't know all the lore of Grand Cathay. We know of stuff existing, but nothing is really concrete until Games Workshop basically confirms it, right? All through the form of DLC. It's always a weird thing speculating for Cathay and also for Kislev, for example. The most important thing is seeing the value for money. So if it's the case that we don't get a legendary lord, do we get a hefty rework for Cathay instead? They said it's going to be cheaper, and it feels a bit weird with that. In all honesty, I would have gone with just the format that they have now, right? But split them up. So say for Tides of Torment, Imagine if T'Challa would have come out by herself with the Slaanesh update and all the units and all the usual stuff being priced at the firm price point that it's there. You get enough content and you get an update for that specific race and faction. That could be useful. And things are likely to change by the time that we see said DLC. They said early 2026 for like more information. So that's probably done already. Hell, it could actually just be the content from Lords of Xiangyang for all we know. But Creative Assembly have changed plans before and have updated content packs prior before announcing them or changed them altogether. Like, for example, again, Neferata was supposed to be a content pack character, but now she's being released for free for the Lords of the End Times patch. The big question here is, when will this release? I was under the assumption that Neferata would come in her own DLC, which was the original plan, right? And that would be before the End Times update. But the End Times update is being considered as patch 8.0. Are DLCs going to release in 0.5s, or is this Cathay DLC coming later down the line? I guess it does obviously depend on how far they are with the NAGASH update, but it's a safe assumption that a smaller DLC will be easier to handle. They could get that out sooner, especially if they're going to talk about it during the early 2026, and then leave NAGASH until the end of year, which again makes a lot more sense as it removes some margin of error. But we do need a patch for Cathay. There is a few things for Cathay that need to be fixed up to make sure that the race is not only just in a good spot, but also just brought in line with everyone else. They've kind of fallen behind, and I think it's because of like the base game Legendary Lords. So a whole patch needs to be dedicated there, unless 0.5s are going to be quite large patches too, dedicated to Cathay. This is some stuff that needs to be kind of said by Creative Assembly, and it's a problem with their blogs where, yeah, they won't really provide a lot of context, but given how Creative Assembly work, and this is from like known experience, they probably wrote that blog like literally the day before or the day of the blog post. Xiaoming certainly needs something new and unique. Actually, funny enough, we covered something similar with a mod review recently. It's something that just feels really awful. Maybe even having a unit building dedicated to ogres, being able to pick up ogres faster. Cathay buildings are fine, and I think a lot of the core things with Cathay are perfectly fine. The biggest issue is the tech tree. I loathe the tech tree for Grand Cathay. It's structured, but it's very much focusing on the two branches. There should be separation. I feel like what they've been doing lately with patches has been wonderful. So Nash's tech tree is great. Chaos Dwarves, High Elves, everyone who's been getting some sort of love over the past 2 years has been getting a much better thing. But Cathay's tech tree has just felt really, really bad. So it'll be nice to get that changed up. I guess, given the context, maybe a 0.5 patch is fine, if it does come out before the Lords of the End Times. Because we don't need a Cathay rework, we just need a few fixes here and there, nothing substantial like what's just recently happened even with Northskir too. But we're gonna have to wait and see. I just kind of wanted to talk about it because it just felt really odd. Like, I have some ideas of like what could be done in terms of units, especially since like we've got some tabletop stuff, but it's not really a lot. We don't have a lot of context. But with all that being said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below to start a bit of discussion. I do apologize, it's a shorter video, but it is Christmas Eve and I do want to spend some time with my family. Have a great one, guys. Merry Christmas. I'll see you all again very, very soon on the 26th, as I always take the 25th off unless something explodes. And to those who don't celebrate, happy holidays, enjoy the day off. I'll see you all again very, very soon. Bye.